Welcome to the Coeur d'Alene Patriot Way podcast, where we highlight local business owners here in Coeur d'Alene that are making way. I'm here with Ethan Frantz.
Yep.
Frantz. I got it. Ethan is a personal trainer here
Yeah.
in Coeur d'Alene, doing great things in our community, and is definitely an asset here. I feel like there's not a person that I don't come into contact with here that lives here that doesn't know you.
Oh, that's
because that's the reason because I was at the gym and I saw you. And I saw if you remember, we were at some fundraiser, and you knew and you talked to one of my colleagues, like Greg or Bobby or one of them, and you knew them, and then I saw your face on this advertising for the Coeur d'Alene t-shirt or clothing.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But why male models?
This guy knows every single person I know, goes to my gym. I go, walk by you every morning.
Right.
And like, he knows every single person I know. So you are.
Have I seen you before? No.
You are doing great things in the community. So welcome to the podcast. Then now, today we were going to talk about your personal training, business, your journey in fitness. And also you have a huge wealth of knowledge in sustainable habits. And what I mean by that, we talked offline about giving people those habits so that they don't always need a personal trainer. Yeah. And what those
I could bench press a sentence.
And what those habits look like. And then lastly, we'll talk about the pickleball scene.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited because my dad is super into pickleball.
Oh, yeah?
And I've never played.
Yeah. Do you live around here?
And so he lives part of the time up here.
Okay.
My mother and him, I helped them get 5 acres in Athol, and so they come up during the summers. And he retired with the fire department, and now he's playing
Another backdraft.
Now he's playing pickleball all the time. And
my man.
And he always he played tennis.
Okay.
He's always been really good at tennis, and I want to get a sport.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the case where I can just beat my dad at something, so I can be.
He's got a tennis background, man. If you don't, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not, because it sounds bad what I just said, because I almost just said that like, pickleball's easy, but
It's easy though. It's easy.
From what every person I've talked to,
I think a lot of people believe pickleball is easy.
Yeah, but that is the fatal error I've heard.
Yes.
That's awesome. So you mind sharing your journey, your background in fitness, and what got you into?
Well, first off, thank you, Mike, for having me on here. Not something I do very often, so it's a cool opportunity, and I appreciate just your intentionality, seeking me out just based off of a couple of circumstances that came to your head, and you're like, man, I got to get to talk to this guy, and I've seen you in the gym for Ethan. I feel like a couple of years now, but so this is cool to be able to sit here and do that with you, man. I appreciate it. There's so many different facets in the training world, right? And so you can't be the one size fits all approach, but I really love working with just general population, regular people. I'm not training athletes. I'm not out training specialized sports stuff. It's nothing like that. I mean, I spent quite a few years myself pursuing powerlifting, so that was a sport that kind of kickstarted, I think, my passion in the fitness world.
Okay.
It's like the first time when I started training powerlifting, it was the first time I felt like I had something that I was working towards. I wasn't
Gotta get a pump though.
And just kind of, meandering around the gym doing random
just doing
stuff,
curls like me
stuff.
in the gym,
exactly,
just doing curls all the time.
So when I found that, I was like, wow, there's actually a purpose and an intention for the training that I'm doing, and it was really cool. It kind of cultivated this passion within me, and this desire to seek, knowledge and learning so much about it so I can instill it into other people, because I've always enjoyed working with people and just communicating with others. And so having something that I can, give to others as a benefit to them and themselves, for just a physical standpoint from that side of health alone, it was something that finally clicked for me that I could see I could probably make a career out of doing this. And so, I accumulated all of this, I guess, knowledge in the powerlifting side of things, right? So how to be effective with squat, bench, deadlift, all of those things, and efficiencies in human movement and all of that. And so it gave me some foundation to be able to teach people what to do in the gym, to give them some level of intention and where they're going. But even in that, I started to see some flaws in my own training and how that was presenting itself. It was through myself getting little random injuries here and there. You know, I would have, you know, an elbow issue from bench pressing, or a shoulder would start to flare up, or my low back would start to give me issues. And so, you know, when you're faced with these things that are not random, there's a reason for every single symptom our body gives us. I had to start questioning my own training methods. And I'm like, well, is what I'm doing actually working? And if it's not working for me, then it must not be working for the people I'm training, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to be, you know, do some soul searching and some introspection and start to think about what I'm doing, if it's actually effective, or if I'm just doing this because for a while I believed that was the way. And so it led me down this other path of seeking out just, I think, the truth in training, common misconceptions, and then just learning so much more about the human body heals and how it communicates with us. And I mean, it's designed so intricately, and there's nothing mistaken about the way that our body speaks to us. So I had to learn about all of that. And so I think the approach that I started training my clients in always started with myself being sort of the guinea pig for it, and having to be my own research in order to teach it to somebody, right? Because I don't want to just teach somebody something that I don't even know about, right? I have to be the one who's practicing what I preach first. And so, you know, I started going for the route of just seeing that what I was doing, even though it was powerlifting and I was doing strength training and, you know, heavy resistance training, all of that stuff, which I think most of the world would see as a positive thing. Yeah. I had to recognize that what I was doing wasn't really training. It was more sport. Because if the training that I'm doing is something that's actually breaking me down, then it's not training. It's just an activity that I'm not prepared to handle.
So like you're talking about longevity in terms of it's a sport because you're trying to get certain numbers, increase your PRs, the amount you're lifting. But if it's a client that's coming and you're,
But the problem for me was I blended it with, for me, it was more sport, I guess. And I didn't see it at the time, but I was chasing numbers and all of that stuff for myself. But it was also in the realm of health for me. It was physical health. This is good for me. So if it's good for me, it's good for my clients. Yeah. But then when it wasn't no longer good for me, it's probably not going to be good for them. So I had to change things up, and obviously for the better. And I think just everybody wants longevity in life, right? We all want to save something. We all want to keep.
I want big biceps.
Yeah, Mike wants big biceps.
That's all I want. I will shorten my life to have bigger biceps.
And bicep.
We'll see how you feel about that later in life.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
But yeah, it's you know, so like I think as we talked about earlier today, like my approach to training now is I want to get to know the individual I'm working with, to understand their lifestyle, understand what brings them joy in life, and the things that they want to be able to sustain for long term, right? So figuring out what that is, right? It could be sports, it could be hobbies, it could be, you know, playing with grandkids, playing with their own kid, whatever it may be. I want to get to a point where I can understand their life and see what is the physical demand that takes for them, and try to find a program that will help them sustain that long term and be able to thrive in it, not just sustain it, but be able to do it and do it well, so they can keep going and be confident and feel like I can continue on living this physical lifestyle because that's what I truly want to do. Because it's a tough place you get to when you start to realize, oh man, my body's starting to shut down and I can't no longer do the things that I once loved doing. So if I can help them to recognize those areas of their lives that they need to work on a little bit more and find out how to prepare themselves for the environment that they want to live in. Yeah. That's kind of my role.
That's that spurred of thought in my head, in my brain, in my head movies. But
I'll see you tonight when I go to bed in my head movie. But this head movie makes my eyes rain.
I don't know what the statistic is, and it has to do with breaking a hip. I think it's when one of our political leaders broke a hip, and then they
close personal friends with Nancy Pelosi, and
they talked about that if someone breaks a hip, and then when someone breaks a hip, it's like a 40% chance that they pass away in the next 5 years or something
Okay.
like that. And I'll put
Yeah.
the statistic here in the imaginary
Yeah.
space, but that's why it's so important that people think, oh, like you personal trainer, or the kind of the stigma of, I want to be super fit. I want to run a race and finish this triathlon or get. But the big thing is being able to help those. The way I see it is help those around you and be an asset, not a liability. Where if I want to either play with my kids or if I want to be able to go on walks with my wife, well, when I turn, 65 or whatever, but if having the strength, the mobility, the flexibility, if I don't have that, I slip, I fall, I break my hip. Now I have a 40% chance that I'm going to be dead in the next few years. I look at things kind of on the extreme side. I'm a pretty extreme person. Thank you, Marine Corps. So it's either extreme fitness or extreme the bad behavior. No,
Okay, we got to find a little common middle ground there.
yeah, it's got to be. But I think I'm just trying to speak on the importance of what you do, and kind of passing those skills and those healthy habits to where, like, you teach a man to fish. He's going to have a lot of high.
He'll be able to provide for himself.
Right.
Take care of himself. Yeah.
With high quality protein.
Yeah, but I think I can't remember I don't know what that stat is about the broken hip leading to morbidity, but nothing is, when it comes to our physical bodies, nothing is random. So, if you have such an extreme reaction to an injury, then there's something deeper going on, right?
Yeah.
That was probably neglected for a while. And so, I mean, you see that, I think, fairly common with elder population where, as they get older and they put less demand on their bodies, we're doing a lot less as we get older. We're not maybe training any sort of level of resistance on their bones. So bone density will naturally start to deteriorate because, I mean, the fact of the matter is, yes, we are all going to die someday. And so
I have to go die now.
things will start to deteriorate, right? That's the way it goes.
Right.
But we can do our due diligence to keep ourselves physically prepared for a long period of time and to be able to handle things well. We see people who are well into their 70s, 80s, 90s doing, very extreme things physically that a lot of 40-year-olds can't do too well. So there is not just this fact that, as soon as we get older, things just fall apart. There are areas of our life that we need to be very accountable in the way that we live and the choices we make.
Not trying to get on like the dying part topic.
Yeah.
But I just made me think in the Bible,
David will always beat Goliath.
where people in the Old Testament lived hundreds of years.
Right.
And I always wondered what was the cause, because I know in modern day society, like, we have the concept of retirement. Retirement, you retire, you go live in a home.
Yeah.
But I believe back in those days, there was no retirement.
Right.
You went from doing this super laborious job or your job, and then now your job is to take care of the kids, to tend a garden, to watch the sheep.
Right.
And they always had a purpose, and the purpose is taken away after retirement. And that brings me into my next point. Purpose in retiring. Just kidding, just stigma. But pickleball.
Okay.
I want to chat about pickleball, and because this is just from a perspective of an outsider.
Yeah.
I'm not knowledgeable at all about pickleball. I'm pretty sure it involves an actual pickle. Like, there's a pickle involved.
Go fetch pickles!
Pickles?
And I don't know where the pickle's
That's
at.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So I see
What a silly name, though.
Yeah, but it's smart because
What a great sport.
it's kind of like saying elephant. You don't think purple elephant, don't think pickle.
Right. You're going to think about.
You're thinking about pickles.
Yeah.
So
I've gotten past that, by the way. I don't
You
think about
haven't?
pickles
So
anymore. I haven't thought about pickleball.
I have
in
the
a long
emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old. So tell me my perspective, how do I get involved into the pickleball? First of all, what is pickleball? Who is pickleball and what does he do?
Pickleball, Pickleball is an awesome sport, and I think I think a big reason why it's sort of swept the nation, maybe the world now.
Yeah, the world.
Is its accessibility, and it's so such a wide spectrum of people can play pickleball. This is where it gets its connotation of being, it's an easy sport, or it's an old person sport, or whatever. It's because you see old people playing it and you see people playing it that it makes it look very easy. But it's just like anything, the moment the level of competition increases, so does the intensity, so does the difficulty, so does the demand. And so it's awesome for that, because you have a completely wide range of skill levels that can play it. I mean, if you ever tennis is a great sport, but it takes a lot of skill, a lot of patience, and just a lot of athleticism. And so, if you ever go out and play tennis and you're out there, you play a match and it might take you an hour. By the time you're done with it, you're not just going to be like, let's go again. You're kind of done at that point. Pickleball, the game's to 11. You could be done in 5 minutes. You can be done in 20 minutes, but then you're ready to go again for the next one. Yeah. And another thing is like you see, using the tennis example again, you ever watch really good tennis? It's awesome. It's fast paced. It's it's intense, and there's so much skill going on. But you watch bad tennis. Yeah, you watch me play tennis, and you're like, get this guy out of here. It's really bad. It's slow. The ball is launching. People are running all over the place. It's just not that much fun when it's low level tennis. Or if you are a decent skill and you play with someone that's low level. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. I'm talking about myself. Well, that's what I tell myself. This is why no one wants to play tennis with me. So yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's why pickleball is so popular, because even when you jump on a court, the first time you start playing pickleball, you got 4 people who are new at it. You're having fun. You're not chasing the ball down, for 20 minutes trying to go, do all this stuff. You're not trying to figure out how to do an overhead serve. It's just super accessible, so it's the barrier of entry is very low, and that's what makes it really enjoyable for a lot of people. And then, you can just keep increasing from there. So, I started playing 5 years ago, and so the pickleball I'm playing today is so much different than what I played 5 years ago. Day one, when it started. But it's just as incredible, so, but pickleball, it's an awesome sport, and this area is a great place for it. We have one of the best paddle manufacturing companies in the whole industry is here right in Hayden, Selkirk Sports. Selkirk, really? I should be repping some of their stuff. You should. We're gonna put a plug. We're gonna put in the podcast. So you called it Selkirk. Selkirk Sport. Selkirk Sport. Yeah. I wonder if it's named after the Selkirk mountain range. I think so. Beautiful. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, but with having them here locally, they've done so much to, put on tournaments over the years and just bring recognition to the sport, just because everybody knows Selkirk pickleball. And so having it here feels like a major perk, because I get to, I've gotten to play in their, in their private courts that they have and stuff like that, where people all around the country who've been playing pickleball for years, who love it, they're like, they know about Selkirk. Yeah. But me, of all people, have gotten to play at their local facility because I live here. Like, how cool is that? That's crazy. I didn't even know. I've heard the company. I've seen you repping their gear. Yeah. But I didn't know. If you go on their shop and you go start looking for some clothes, you might see a familiar face on there. Nice. Just like I can't get away from you. I saw you at the Coeur d'Alene, now the Selkirk. Yeah. But it is something I'm going to get into and get out there. Yeah. What are some of the taboo or the don'ts when you're playing pickleball? Is there, because if I'm going out there, and I'm gonna start playing. Don't keep talking about your tennis days and how much tennis better it was. Back when I was young and I played tennis. Yeah. Or this is how we do it in tennis. My shorts were way shorter in like tennis racket than sports. This. There's so many racket sports. People like to think tennis is just, or pickleball is just some I don't know, some form of tennis, but it's its own separate thing. So I don't know. As far as don'ts though. Yeah. Because for example, in tennis, no matter what the where I'm at in the game, I would just swing as hard as I could. Yeah. And I would hit over the fence like baseball, but apparently you don't get points. Yeah. Wrong sport. Wrong sport. Yeah. But how about this is probably a better question, more productive is, where could I go to get started? Do I need to go and get a paddle from Selkirk
or can I go somewhere? Where's a good place to go and get plugged in?
So many places now, because of the popularity of the sport, so many places are carrying stuff. I was just in that new store up the that Bed Bath & Beyond.
Sierra?
Sierra.
Yeah, Sierra.
But they even got pickleball paddles in there now too. And so, but yeah, you can get a paddle anywhere. And honestly, if you're just getting into it, it doesn't really matter. The paddle, the paddle's only going to give you so
I'll
much
probably just
skill.
play once
But-
and then be crushed.
Yeah,
and
but
leave.
honestly, there's a lot of places you can play now. A couple years ago, we only had a couple spots. We had like Memorial Field, which has 4 courts, and then we had
right
Cherry
there.
Hill, but you need to set up nets, and it was on tennis. It was on double painted lines on tennis courts and stuff like that. And then there was like one indoor place to play at Peak Hayden. But now, now we've got Cherry Hill has, I think we're at 12 courts.
Yeah,
now,
I saw that.
Permanent courts. Memorial's still there, and you can set up, so there's 8 courts you can play there. You got the new place out in the new Peak in Post Falls opened up last year, and they've got 8 indoor courts, 8 outdoor courts.
Wow.
There's another place in Spokane Valley, Power Pickleball Club. They've got, I think, 11 indoor courts. So like the opportunity to play is so much bigger than it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say is for somebody who's trying to get into it, there is a really good pickleball club here. It's called Inland Northwest Pickleball Club.
Inland Northwest Pickle Club.
And I met them playing at the Boys and Girls Club on an indoor court on like basketball surfaces years ago. They would meet there, and I think they still might in the off season. But there's a couple of really good guys guys and gals who run that. But they just do awesome stuff for the community. I mean, they're the ones who raised basically I think most of the money to do the Cherry Hill courts.
Oh, wow.
Like it was private for the most part, though. I think it was privately funded.
That place is always packed, by the way.
Exactly.
I drive by
so,
there, and it's packed.
It's such a great place to play. And so Inland Northwest Pickleball Club has done a lot as far as the community goes. And they also do, I think they do training clinics for beginners and intermediate stuff. And so it's a great place if somebody's like, I want to play, and I don't know how to get connected in. I mean, they've got a Facebook page. I believe they've got a website you can go to and just reach out to somebody. And I mean, I remember how welcoming that community was when I first started playing. Like they just love having new people, and they want to teach you everything about the game because they love it.
Spread the good news of
you wanna
pickleball.
Spread the good news, and so it's a great place to start. And honestly, if you just grab a paddle and you go down,
That's all I need. Is a paddle. What type of tennis? What type of shoes would you recommend? Is there pickleball shoes?
There are pickleball shoes. They're court shoes.
Shoes.
Just like tennis, you get hard court shoes and things like that. But is it required in order to play? Absolutely not. I mean, there's a lot of Gen Zers who are out there playing in jeans and bare feet that I see nowadays. Yeah. But I guess where I've landed on the principles of my training and how I train each person is I think we have to recognize how accountable we have to be for our own choices that we make every single day that make up our overall health, and so I think when we can clearly look at that and see that I am responsible for the majority of things that happen to me physically, unless I get hit by a bus, that's a different story. But if I start, getting, little injuries here and there, my shoulder's bugging me, my back's killing me, my knees are, tweaked out, things like that.
Multiple injuries.
We have to understand that all injury is your inability to be prepared to a level that is greater than your chosen environment.
Oh wow, that's a good.
And so, like, I use one of my good clients for an example. I trained him for many years. He's a construction worker. He works as a finished carpenter. So if you can imagine just the positions that his environment demands every single day for him to be in, up and down stairs, kneeling down on the ground, bending, twisting, grabbing stuff, lots of force being applied. It's hard work, and I grew up doing finished concrete work. That was like my first job for many years, and so I've seen my dad do that for many years, and just the physical toll that it takes on a human being when that is your environment every single day. It's a tough thing. But I also started to see a lot of people who step into that, who are in that world. They almost become victim to their environment and just say, well, my job is tough, so that's just kind of the sacrifice I make.
And I just pay
for it. And I just have a bad back, bad arms, bad shoulders, bad knees because of my job. And there's truth to the breakdown that happens, but when your environment that you're purposefully putting yourself into is the most intense thing you do throughout your life, at some point it will break you down. So your training if you want to stay in that environment, your training has to be at a higher level of intensity than the skill that you're having to perform is. So this guy who was a construction worker, we started working together and just training him up in just basic human fundamental movement that we were all designed to be able to do. So I'm talking full range of motion, joint movements, being able to flex, extend, rotate, bend at your spine. All of those things are extremely important functions of the human body that we all have the ability to do for the most part. But we start to lose those things if we never train them to their full capacity or full potential. But we start doing jobs and sports and stuff that put so much demand on them that if we have no level of preparedness stepping into it, they're eventually going to break us down. So training this guy, he just got to a place of physical preparedness to where his job was no longer the most difficult thing he had to do in his life. And when I say difficult, I mean like intensity of movement, things like that. So his training was at a point to where that was the thing that was preparing him for his job. So his body's preparedness was able to handle his job. And so he got to the point where he's starting to run circles around the other people, and he's able to see
that's awesome.
The massive benefit of just him intentionally putting, 3 times a week for an hour training, into his life.
Yeah.
And it was for him, just a longevity standpoint, he needs to be able to sustain, his work so he can provide for himself, for his family, all of that stuff. Because you don't want to just leave your environment if it breaks you down. I mean, you can, but
then what do you do?
Yeah. So we have an option when we encounter, injuries and things like that. We can either leave our environment or we can train or prepare our body to handle it and to handle it well so we can keep going. And so that's the role that I take when I train my clients is what is it in life that you're doing that is breaking you down, and how can I help you physically prepare for that to be able to thrive in that environment so you can keep going.
And that's super important because, I'm a full-time real estate agent, but another thing that takes up a lot of the time is I'm a hunting outfitter and guide. And I, a lot of the time people, at least for me, is you think, oh, I'm in shape. I'm, because I go work out, I do that. But when you're doing a job that's like that's an incredible point that you made that you can't just go to the gym and I can walk on a stair stepper.
Yeah.
That's not the intensity of doing a 5-day, 10-day hunt.
Right.
And, awkward terrain and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think we chatted about this a couple weeks ago I think I want to step into doing more of a corporate training setting to where I go into bigger businesses, and I'm talking businesses that, their industry or their work is demanding on them physically.
Yeah.
I mean, you take the healthcare industry, for instance, you got nurses and doctors who are on their feet, 10, 12, 14, maybe even longer hour shifts than that. Yeah. And it's demanding on them physically. Like most of the injuries that they encounter in that industry, most of the workman's comp claims come from just injuries that they sustain from doing their jobs. So if somebody can come in and offer a way to train their employees to be physically prepared to handle their jobs well, I mean, that's a massive benefit to that company. And I think that's something that I'm looking to step into. Yeah. Because I do have a skill set in recognizing what is the forces that an industry applies to their workers, and how can we find training tools that keep them at a high level of capacity to keep going, to keep doing that without constantly breaking down.
So like looking at the symptoms, diagnosing, or coming up with that, and then coming up with an actionable plan that's going to that's
because it can't be one size fits all approach. It's going to look completely different for every person and what their environment is. So you have a 70-year-old grandma who loves to garden. Her training protocol, if she wants to keep gardening, is going to be completely different than somebody who is a finished carpenter. It's going to be a different setup, completely different programming. So you have to look at the individual. You have to look at their life, their environment, and figure out what are the high demand forces that are being put through their body physically, and how can we train the body to handle those well and to thrive in that environment.
In real estate, it's just my ear. Just like my
Seriously though,
just my
but
ear.
like,
That's why my ear's really fat because like
I'll give you a big fat message and your big fat ears.
I just
yeah,
listen
but what
to
about that front deltoid that's always
Oh,
worn
yeah,
down
it's-
on you and your
that's
shoulders
because-
giving you problems?
Yeah, that's because
Yeah.
it's because I'm always got my I need to be the stereotypical real estate agent with the
Bluetooth.
the Bluetooth, and
It's like one of the like mid 2000s ones.
buy,
Just
sell,
from-
sell,
yeah.
sell.
but like office workers is another one. You know, you're always constantly in a position, and you know that's the thing. Like the beautiful thing about the human body is it's from a physical standpoint alone. The human body's job is to adapt and survive. That's what it'll do, and it'll adapt to any environment you put it in, whether it's good or bad. So from an office worker job, if you're constantly in a seated position all the time, your body's going to adapt to that as best as it can, so it can survive in that environment. But that's going to come with this, you know, a myriad of symptoms. You're going to have tight upper back. You're going to have, you know, probably some wrist issues from typing all the time, all sorts of stuff, hip things because you're just stationary all the time. So how do we look at that environment that they're in and figure out how to keep them able to handle their job even better?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I did a 5-year college degree in that specific thing, environmental resource management, but it was safety, like like workers' comp stuff.
Yeah.
And whenever it's crazy, and you said something earlier in our chat about people look at there's the symptoms. It's everything has a consequence. If it's I imagine that as their diet, their sleep, schedule, everything like that. And I used to think in this 5-year degree I'm taking, I'm like, how can people be so out of their mind, not realize that what they're doing every single day is leading. But it's kind of one of those things where like, well, I'm sitting here and I'm typing like this. Yeah, it's not going to do anything today, tomorrow, next week, but a year from now, 2 years from now, I'm going to look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I'm, so it's.
But that's really important to be able to acknowledge that and to just like, again, hold yourself accountable. Okay, this is the environment I'm putting myself into purposefully. I'm not blaming anybody. This is what I'm choosing to do.
Right.
So what comes with that is my body's going to adapt to it. Whatever position I'm in the most of, my body's going to adapt. So if you start feeling like the Hunchback of Notre Dame a year down the road, you will know what happened, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a surprise. You're not going to say, well, it's because of my age. Maybe, it's, everything works together, from a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual standpoint. If any of those areas are lacking, we're going to notice it. It's going to affect you from a health standpoint in many ways. And so, there's so many areas of our life that we have to sort of optimize. And again, you don't want to overemphasize how much control we have over it, because the reality is no matter how much you try to make everything so perfect in your life, all the right health protocols, all that stuff, if you go so far to that pendulum swing of it, you're going to start, giving yourself so much stress and anxiety, all of these things. If something goes wrong, then you're going to question, oh man, well, what, was I doing the right thing? Did I, whatever. So it'll kind of lead you down this tailspin of emotions. But
luckily it's my thyroid is my problem.
Yeah.
That's
luckily.
why I'm
But so you just want to do your due diligence. You want to be wise with the choices you make every single day, because that's going to make up your health.
Yeah.
You want to have those good habits. You want to make sure that, you can't get too caught up in, eating something that's not necessarily good for you, and you have it one time and you feel guilty about it and all that stuff. But like I have this principle that I heard from somebody many years ago that I love. It's a happy donut is better than a sad salad. And there's so much truth to that, because like if I go into that and I have a donut, I had one this morning with my kids actually.
Nice.
Right now we got donuts this morning, but we don't get donuts often, but we love them. And so if I can go into it and I can understand, okay, if I have 1 or 2 donuts here, last time I had one was 4 months ago, this donut's not going to kill me. This donut's not going to, put me in a tailspin of bad health issues. But I can look at that and say, my body is adaptable. It's resilient. It can handle a donut or 2 here and there. But I can go into that and fully enjoy it. And it's nourishing to my body and my soul because of the enjoyment that we're getting out of the positive emotion. We're sharing a meal. My kids are loving all that stuff. That's going to be better for me than me following maybe a nutritionist guidance who's telling me you need to eat salad, kale salad every single day in order for you to be healthy. But I hate it every single time.
Yeah.
is that going to be healthy for me if I hate what I'm putting into my body every single time, even though it's supposed to be healthy? Probably not. That's why the healthy donut's better than sad
I like
salad.
that. Use that. That's huge, and I love your mindset. And it seems like that's from all the people through my years' experience, the people that are able to do well in their career field or that are doing well or helping. And that's why I really wanted you to come on the podcast, is because yes, there are other personal trainers out there. Yes, there are other real estate agents, but it's people's mindset and getting the benefit of now I can go eat a donut and be happy.
Honestly though, like that's a big thing.
Yeah,
we got to enjoy our life. We got to enjoy the things that we're intaking,
right.
You know, and you got to have some discernment, and some wisdom into it.
Right.
Like if I'm going out and I'm craving a donut every single day and I'm indulging myself in that, is that going to be good for me? No. And I have to be able to, you know,
in a bulking phase.
We can call it whatever we want, but it's not healthy. And I got to be able to realize that and make a wise choice. Okay, this is not healthy. Then I got to cut this out. But if I can look at it and be like, hey, this is not going to hurt me once in a great while.
Yeah.
I have a couple beers a week. Craft beer is a big thing for me. Like it's a hobby of mine. I want to try something new all the time. So I have a few beers a week with dinner.
But awesome. Well, thanks, Ethan,
for
coming on the podcast and indulging me and going over, because fitness is very important to me, and the size of my biceps is a litmus or metric to my
For the record,
to my
I
happiness.
have seen Mike work legs, I think, a couple times in the gym. So
Yeah,
it's not all biceps for you.
it was, and I wore my fancy shorts for that day.
Your Ranger panties?
I did. I wore those for you that day, and
Wait, no, you're Marines.
Marines. But we still we still call them that.
Panties?
Yeah, panties. I can't. A side story. Nothing wrong with the word like men wearing panties, but but I was in a gun store the other day, and an old time Marine was talking and stuff, and I'm kind of proud of my service or whatever. I'm super into myself, and he's like, oh, you were a Marine? Because I said, thank you for your service, being a Marine. Yeah. He's like, he's finished this phrase. Never, what did he say? Never retreat. And I'm like, okay, never
surrender?
Yeah, that's what I said, like never surrender. Kind of like that Galaxy Quest movie.
Okay.
Never give up, never surrender. So I was like, and he's like, wrong. Were you even in the Marine Corps?
Oh my gosh.
I don't think so. And then to my defense, the owner of the place, he was a Marine. He goes, I don't think they were teaching that whenever they taught that in like your day. And
I would transcend all the generations, does it?
Doesn't. And it doesn't count that I'm an ASVAB waiver either. But yeah, well, thanks for coming on the podcast and talking very important things about living longer and pickleball and being and taking accountability for our actions and me stuffing my happy donut in my face.
That's right.
And being a happy individual. I'm happy anyway. I could be whatever I'm eating, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming on.
Great,
Thanks,
man.
Ethan.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Signing off. Cool.